So, after Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out, Marvel came to the realization that people liked an older Peter Parker, because it's not like they already have one of those that people liked in the comics. So, they made Peter Parker 72 years old. Well, not totally. They took Peter and said, what if in 1962 a 15-year-old Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider, and time after that wasn't compressed and it passed normally? To me, the premise seemed stupid and like Marvel was just pandering to make a quick buck, and I wasn't going to pick it up. Then, like a miracle from the heavens, I was told it was going to be written by Chip Zdarsky, and immediately I put that release date into my iPhone calendar, and on release day, I went to pick it up from my local comic book store. So that's the story of how I came across this wonderful book, but that's not what you clicked on this video for. You clicked on this video for a hard-hitting synopsis of the story and a killer review, and I'm prepared to deliver. The story opens on a 19-year-old Peter Parker in 1966. At this point, he's been Spider-Man for 4 years, if you can't do math. Now, this decision to not retell the origin story is something we're seeing a lot of now, like Marvel's Spider-Man for the PS4 throws us in a story with a Peter Parker who's been Spider-Man for 8 years. And I really like that they didn't include the origin retelling, especially in a book where you basically have to take everything that happened from 1966 to 1977 and put it into one story. So not having the origin retelling is a real time saver and gives the story more time to focus on more important things that happened within those years. The story picks up with Peter having 1 year of college left at 19. I mean, come on. And Peter is struggling over potentially being drafted for the Vietnam War, or if he should use his spider powers to help in the war effort. This is an interesting internal struggle to see Peter go through, because we have to remember that Peter is still very early into the superhero game at this point. He is very impressionable, so when he sees Iron Man fighting in Vietnam and he hears that Cap is going to join the war, he feels like he should be helping, but he's conflicted with how that would affect Aunt May and everyone else in his life at the time. Chip Zdarsky really understands how selfless Peter Parker is. I mean, Peter might have to go fight in a war, and all he can think about is the people around him. This is the reason we love Spidey. We actually skip all of Peter's high school and jump straight into his senior year of college, so we don't see Peter being bullied by Flash. What we do see, in my opinion, is even better. Peter goes to Flash's send-off party, as Flash is being shipped out to Vietnam. Peter shows up, and as he's greeting Flash, he can't help but take some shots at him. Now, alone this wouldn't be very interesting, or wouldn't matter that much. But after Gwen Stacy convinces Peter to go and apologize to Flash, Peter says, and I quote, High school was rough for me, and you were a big part of that. I know you've grown past who you were, but I don't know, sometimes I'm still there, and I snap at you, because I can now. To me, this is real. So real. Peter is now grown up. He's not afraid of Flash stealing his lunch money or pushing him around, and so now he feels he can fight back at Flash for all the mean things that Flash has done to him, even though he knows that Flash has changed his ways, and that is so human. It gets even better though, because while Peter is struggling with deciding if he should go enlist or not, Flash drops this bomb. After Peter asks Flash why he's going to fight in the war, Flash says,
"Aw man, it's easy. I'm doing it 'cause it's what Spider-Man would do."
This line is such a hard hitter, because Peter is feeling like he's being a coward. Iron Man is fighting, Cap went off to fight, and now Spider-Man, who has not gone off to fight, has inspired Flash Thompson, Peter Parker's high school bully, to go and fight for his country. It's also interesting because it shows Peter just how much Spider-Man can affect people's lives, and that makes him feel pride. But it also makes Peter feel cowardly and guilty, because not only is it very likely that Flash won't return from the war, Spider-Man isn't even fighting in the war. So moments after Flash tells Peter about all of this, Peter is greeted by Mr. Norman Osborn. My one complaint is that the story brushes past all the Green Goblin stuff and only establishes an ending without a beginning or middle, if that makes sense. Basically, in this bar where Flash is having his going away party, Norman grabs a seat next to Peter and tells him that he knows who Peter really is. Peter, obviously freaked out by this, starts thinking about what Norman could possibly mean by this. When Norman tells Peter to look on a shelf behind the bar, Peter sees a pumpkin. Not just any pumpkin, a Green Goblin pumpkin bomb. Norman tells Peter that he has set up 10 of them around the bar, and if Peter wants to save all the people in this bar, he won't tamper with the bombs, and in 30 seconds Peter will get up from the bar and walk into the alley like nothing happened. Peter, not wanting anything bad to happen, follows the instructions and walks in the alley to find Norman Osborn in the Green Goblin costume. Now, we are clued into the fact that Spidey has been after Goblin for a while, and on some level I don't mind Zdarsky skipping the whole Green Goblin mystery, because at this point everybody, not only comic fans, know that Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. But even so, it's always fun to see a battle between the two, and there is only one fight scene that's like 2 pages long. Once Peter sees Norman, he begins fighting him. He figured that if he could lure Goblin away, then he wouldn't be able to detonate the bombs, because, well, it's the 1960s. Technology hadn't exactly evolved to the level we have now, and good on Zdarsky for taking advantage of the time period and writing it. Peter lures Goblin away, and from there, it's just a fight until Goblin catches Peter, and in a last-ditch effort, Peter pulls a billboard down on Goblin. Peter fights with himself about saving Norman or leaving him, and eventually, he saves him. But to Peter's surprise, Norman has forgotten what happened. To me, this is way too fast, and I know they had to fit an entire decade into one comic, but I mean, maybe Norman ends up in the hospital, and when Peter goes to visit him, Norman asks Peter what happened. I mean, my biggest problem with this story is that it moves too fast at times, and it feels almost like things are left out. For the rest of the issue, Peter struggles with what to do if Norman remembers who he really is, and eventually Peter calls in an anonymous tip about Osborn, and the police find his secret Goblin room and take him away. Zdarsky does a great job making me buy that Peter would sell Norman out, and by that I mean that this Peter Parker that Zdarsky is building might do something like this, because even after Norman has discovered his identity, he doesn't care about it being outed. He just cares about the people around him, and for the greater good of most of Peter's loved ones, he sends in the anonymous tip. The issue ends with Peter racing to wish Flash off to the war because he had forgotten, and now the only way he can make it on time is as Spidey. But when he arrives, he sees Gwen, and she tells him that Flash left 20 minutes ago. Peter is angry at himself, and Gwen is upset that Peter is always late and seemingly doesn't care about anything. But Peter grabs her and apologizes to her. But after the apology, Gwen looks down his button-up shirt and sees the Spidey suit, asking,
What's this?
With her hand on the spider symbol. It's actually kind of funny because for years I've been saying that if Peter wears a skin-tight spider suit under a button-up without the top button buttoned, how has no one seen his suit under it? I knew that Gwen would eventually find out anyway, and it was done in a smooth way, so I have no complaints. Only praise for the fact that Zdarsky is able to write people so well. When Gwen gets mad at Peter for not being on time, it makes sense. It's not just like, oh, haha, you're always late, Peter. It's something that actually affects the people around and their perception of him. In conclusion, please go pick up this book and give it some love. It really is a great read. I mean, I want more stuff like this and less stuff about contemporary politics. I want stories that matter and that represent something, rather than stories that push an agenda with absolutely no subtlety. Talking about you, MODOK Trump. And I don't want more Dan Slott who thinks that people read Spider-Man for Spider-Man. He's wrong. People read Spider-Man for Peter Parker and Peter Parker's struggles. Spider-Man is just an added bonus. Support more of this and less of this. What are you waiting for? Go out and get this book. Thank you guys for watching. I know I've been gone for a really long time and I had a lot going on. I know that my return would have to be grand, so I tried and I hope you enjoyed. I actually do have a big project that I'm working on right now, so the videos might have a weird schedule. I'm gonna try and put out a video at least once a month, at most twice a month, and I'm pretty sure that the project should be finished soon. But if you want, I'll give you a little hint about what it's about. It has to do with an entire universe and a possible future. Anyways, enjoy thinking about what that means. I'm out. See you guys later.